this YouTube going. Yes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tunnel Vision, a show brought to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, Keely, joined by Shotgun Spratling and Ryan Abraham. Obviously, we are not in our normal studio location. We're actually on location in Denver, I believe.
We're in Denver.
We're in Denver. So a different setup. We're going to try and hope this works. We're streaming solely on YouTube, I believe, just to make sure the stream goes.
Looks like it's all right. Our CPU's doing okay.
Well done. So hopefully audio's okay. But make sure you put your questions, your comments, everything in the YouTube chat. That's where we're going to talk to you guys. We don't even have live calls today, so it's old school. OG Tunnel Vision watchers, this is what we used to do. We're back to the OG days. But guys, in Boulder, or in Denver, Boulder, same thing in my mind. It's cold. There's snow. I'm excited.
We've thrown snowballs at Keely outside. There's some snow in the front yard, which is nice.
I'm very excited.
You've been hit by a few snowballs already.
Yes, from you.
And shotgun.
And true. One by you, multiple by you.
Yeah,
make sure.
But this is a little old school, so we only have the one camera. We're doing, we're just trying to do this in our Airbnb.
Yeah.
We're only streaming to one service because you're doing on a laptop, but it seems like it's working. So sorry for the Facebook and Periscope people. We'll put this video up on Facebook at least. You can kind of see it later if you're a Facebook person, or if you're watching it now.
Yeah. So, but we have a good show for you today. Obviously, we got to preview USC Colorado, a Friday night game on the road, which in general for the Pac-12 doesn't really go well for the road team. USC still hasn't had a win on the road. I guess first up, guys, what are you seeing from this Colorado team? It seems like this is the perfect chance to try and get the first road win of the season for USC.
Yeah, we do our power rankings here at 24/7 Sports, so all the publishers of all Pac-12 sites will vote. Colorado was voted the number 12 team in the power rankings, so the worst. And they were in the top half earlier. They had a couple good wins. They beat Nebraska. They beat Arizona State. But, they've been pretty terrible the last couple of games, getting blown out. Their defense has given up at least 30 points every game this year, all the way, actually, the 12 games in a row. And Steven Montez has just been abysmal the last couple of games. 6 turnovers, no touchdowns. He started off the season with 10 touchdowns and I think 2 picks, but 6 picks in the last 2 games. That's something that's got to change. So look for their stars. There's some really good players on Colorado. It's just not real deep, and it's Mel Tucker's first year.
Yeah.
I think Steven Montez is a really talented guy. He could play well. Laviska Shenault might be the best player in the conference. He hasn't had his breakout game yet. It could come Friday night. And then Mustafa Johnson is coming out off an injury. He's like pretty much their best defensive lineman, maybe their best defensive player with Landman, but they got a few guys. If they kind of put it all together, they could probably get a little feisty. If not, it'll blow up.
And they've been playing some young guys. A guy like Mark Perry from Rancho Cucamonga, was getting some opportunities. Got his first start last week. So Mel Tucker's kind of working his guys and the guys that he brought in his first recruiting class in a little bit. And now can you find the combination of young guys and they start to improve as the season goes along with your veteran stars. Mustafa Johnson, like we talked about, only played 17 snaps last week as he came back from an injury. Laviska Shenault's been banged up again this season. If they can find ways to get him the ball, they can be a dangerous team.
Yeah.
Because, they've looked really bad the last couple of weeks, but what teams don't look really bad when you turn the ball over 7 times?
Yeah.
How good did USC look against BYU and Washington when you throw 6 interceptions? Well, they've thrown 7 the last 2 weeks, 6 of them by Montez. They don't have a backup quarterback. Their third-string guy, I think their backup may be done for the year. Their third-string guy came in. His first throw last week was an interception too. So, the biggest thing for them is getting Montez's confidence up. And that was kind of a question coming out last week. Is his confidence shaken? Mel Tucker was asked about it this week, and he's like, I see him all the time. I don't think it necessarily is. So if that's the case, that's going to be the most important piece for Colorado. If he has a big game, and he's had some solid games against USC. You remember, as a freshman, he came in relief of Sefo Lufau and played really well. So he's had some good games. He's fully capable of it, and he's a big dude in the back in the pocket. So he can make some things happen and force you to try to get to him and actually pull him down. Similar to kind of how Grant Gunnell, USC was able to affect him but couldn't sack him last week. Whereas things were a lot different in the first half when you got 6 sacks against Khalil Tate. So so you got to get him on the ground, and USC obviously is very limited in their pass rush unit right now. With the defensive ends that they have, the injuries they have in that unit, as well as several others.
I was going to say, this is a chance for Colorado to exploit the weaknesses of USC in the sense of injuries. It's a big week again for injuries. USC just keeps getting the injury bug. We got the latest update from Clay Helton yesterday, I believe. So it looks like Elijah Griffin, Isaac Taylor-Stewart, and Greg Johnson will be playing. Chris Steele actually tweaked his knee in Tuesday's practice, I believe. So that's something to watch for.
Yeah, we thought him versus Laviska Shenault was going to be a thing.
Yeah, and now we're not sure.
He might not even play now. So
yeah, because he didn't practice on Wednesday, the closed practice. So we don't know his full status there, but they do get some bodies back on that secondary. Of course, they're missing Talanoa Hufanga. They're still going to miss Palaie Naote-Ote. Kanai Mauga still going to get that start there. And it looks like Hunter Echols and Caleb Tremblay will be those bookends on the defensive front.
Yeah, because Drake Jackson's going to be out. Looks like Christian Rector's probably going to be out on another game to try to get him healthy. So you're missing your starting 2 defensive ends. You're missing your will linebacker, your highest-rated defender coming out of high school, with Palaie Naote-Ote behind him. You just had 3 DBs out. You get them back, but you lose Talanoa Hufanga, who's was your top tackler, before he got injured, I guess before the Washington game. So, there's some serious depth concerns and issues there. Now, one thing though, guys have stepped up. The last couple of weeks, you've seen guys like Kanai Mauga just put up a ridiculous stat line last week. 13 tackles, forced a fumble, had a sack, had an interception, 2 tackles for loss. That's the best stat line any USC defender has had this season. So he stepped up into this thing. Now, it was Arizona, and Arizona's offense looked abysmal last week. So you can only take so much from it. But other guys have stepped up, especially that secondary. We've seen it throughout the season. Mm-hmm. So how do they can they continue to make amends, or does Colorado find a way to exploit some of those injuries? That's something that we haven't really seen. USC's give their coaches on the defensive side a good, give them a little bit of credit for doing a good job of not letting any of their injuries be exploited so far this season.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, give us a little like on this thing on your favorite.
Sure, we're all on YouTube. So
YouTube, give us a little thumbs up.
Also, subscribe. It helps us out. We're so close to 10,000, so if you want to give us a little subscribe, that would be great. But injuries, we talked about the defensive side of the ball for USC. The offensive side of the ball, the running back depth is just non-existent for USC. You have Vavai Malpei out, Stephen Carr out, and Marquise Stepp out, and Stepp's going to be out for an extended period of time. So now you're looking at Keaton Kristen being the running back 1, and then you have a former walk-on, Quincy Junti, as your second running back, and then Dominic Davis, who's moved everywhere pretty much on USC's both defense and offense, is back at running back. What are you looking at that position? We've seen Keenan. He's electric when he has the ball, when the offensive line opens up a hole for him. But we haven't seen him as an every down back. What are you expecting for this running back group to stay in for pass protection and kind of get that position group going when they don't have that much experience?
I mean, you start with Keenan. He's got to be explosive. But there's a lot of things that we still have to see if these guys can do. We saw that Keaton Kristen, when he has a hole, can burst and show that speed. Yep. He had a couple, obviously the 2 touchdown runs, but he had a couple of shorter runs, maybe like a 7-yard run on this first play, where he gets through the hole and he's just really quickly to the second level. That's a positive. But can he break a tackle? Can he, pass block? Can he pass, catch a pass out of the backfield? Those things we haven't seen him really do yet. And the same thing with Quincy Junti, we haven't seen. Now, Quincy Junti's a heavier back. He's at 210 pounds. Keaton Kristen said this week that he's 180. Dominic Davis is probably 165 or so, somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. But so those are lighter guys. Now, the guys that Mike Jinks has had before, because I remember when I first talked to him in the spring, he said, I've never had guys that are this big, talking about Steph, Vi, and Marquise and Stephen Carr. And those guys are all listed at 220 pounds, I think, or better. So he's usually had 200 to 205 pound guys. That's usually what the guys that have been drafted. The I can't remember his name, from Texas Tech. That really succeeded in this offense. So it's a smaller guy. How does that fit? Do you change things? I'm going to be looking to see if there's some changes in the offense to try to alleviate what they're asking of the running backs. Maybe you see some actual 5-man sets. Maybe you see some 2 tight ends to help block. Maybe do some different things. You go max protect so that the tight end's still in there to help block as well as a running back. So you're not putting too much onus on these guys with things that we haven't seen that they could do in a game setting.
Yeah.
I think they're going to throw the football more than what we've seen in the past. It's been kind of 50-50, right, run pass. I think you're going to see more air raid this time. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. They're not going to run the ball as much. I'm curious, our friends over at Reign of Troy set a Dominic Davis touches at 1/2. So will he touch the ball? What would you say over under? Is Dominic Davis going to get a touch?
Mike Jinks made it sound like they want 3 running backs in this game. So I would say yes. I'm taking the over.
So he's going to get some carries.
And the thing you got to think about is how much can you put in a week? He hasn't played running back in this system at all. He hasn't played running back in 4 years, I want to say. He's been on the offensive side since fall camp, and he's learned the wide receiver position. So he's a guy that you can use for swing passes. He can be the check down guy.
Threat,
he's more of that guy. So we'll see, how much he has learned this week. It's supposed to be a super simple offense. So is he ready to pick up blitzes and do all those things that you need a running back to do? I don't know exactly. So I think that will play into, how much you can use him. And with the way they've had injuries, if someone else goes down, that could force more touches again.
True. That's true.
And another guy, if there was another injury, Velus Jones Jr. can play running back too. He played some running back in high school. He's not being used as a wide receiver.
He's really busy at wide receiver. I don't think he could come over to play running back.
Right, so sassy. But you mentioned this is a week for USC to air raid the ball, pass more. The reason why I think in my mind is Colorado's passing defense is 129th in the nation out of 130. Now, we didn't fully see the air raid against Arizona.
It's not the worst, but it's very close to the worst.
Very close.
Very close to the worst in the country.
We didn't see this air raid explode against Arizona, who was, I believe, 127th in passing defense.
Yeah, much better.
And I think after the Notre Dame game, we kind of expected Keaton Slovis to take a step forward, still keep progressing. And Graham Harrell was like, he thought that Keaton had his most hesitant game. What do you see from Keaton in this game coming forward? Do you see more passing? Do you see him being less hesitant in that sense?
I think there's going to be more on his shoulders for this one, too. Yeah. Because of the running back situation, because of the defense that you're going to be facing. And, Colorado could still be kind of feisty, but I think you have to let him go out there and run your air raid stuff that we were seeing before. Receivers run the grass. Spread it around. I don't care what coverages they're running, drop 8, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, get out there and start throwing the football around. Do what you do well. Mm-hmm. I think this is a great opportunity for it. And maybe you do throw a little swing pass to Dominic Davis and do some things like that. And when you open things up at the pass, Keenan Kristen busts a big one or something. I think you can do that more. But I'm expecting more of a higher ratio of passing to running. And we just haven't seen that. Well, it's been about, 50? Is it 50-50 on the year? It's pretty darn close.
It's been close, pretty close.
Yeah.
They've been pretty balanced in most games. There's been a couple of games that gone, different ways. The Fresno State game, they ran a lot more, obviously, that second half. Yeah. Stanford, they threw it a ton. Utah, they couldn't run it all, so they threw it a ton. But I think, again, you take what the defense is giving you. I think these running backs are plenty capable of running the ball. Mm-hmm. So if they're dropping 8 and doing things like that, and we saw a little bit of that from Arizona. I thought Keaton did a good job. Keaton Slovis did a good job. We got to say Slovis now instead of Keenan versus Keaton.
And Graham Harrell in his scrum this week was like, Keenan and Keaton, that's going to be a problem. And we kind of all ran into that this week. You got to really choose your spots.
Yeah, so Slovis has got to continue to do a good job. One thing that Arizona did, I pointed this out in the Family Feud podcast. It'll be up tomorrow, hopefully.
Tonight.
After the game, yeah.
That's one thing Arizona did is after watching Notre Dame and seeing the pass rush they were trying to get, and obviously they have two really good ends at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That Slovis was able to step up in the pocket and not necessarily take off running, and he did a couple times, but step up and move to a lot of times move to his right and still look for targets downfield. Well, Arizona kept their defensive tackles basically from getting far upfield. They just stayed at the line of scrimmage for the most part. They were kind of spying him to an extent, and then they were trying to make moves off of his first moves. The ends made him step up, then they would go after him. And that caused him a lot of trouble. He was, the 2 sacks he took, he was trying to run out the back of the pocket, which is not what you want a quarterback to be doing, especially, with the mobility that Slovis does have. So look to see if Colorado does something similar, and if Slovis, learns from his mistakes last week and stays in the pocket better, and it can deliver a throw, even if it's a check down. If they drop 8, that's when you throw those check downs. That was the big thing at Washington that they didn't do enough of is, okay, if they're dropping them, let your running back go. And you saw last game, Stephen Carr checked down and he goes for 11 yards or something, making a guy just look awful. Tony Fields went flying one way on the other. So trust those guys to make a play like that. And that speed of Keenan Kristen, if he catches the ball, he's going to get 5 yards just almost immediately because of how quickly he accelerates. So those are the things you just have to trust and, take that 5-6 yards as often as you can and force them to, start bringing guys up and do something different.
I'm seeing a couple people saying that this is the first time they're catching Tunnel Vision actually live, so that's exciting. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Sorry that we're not
this
in
is
our
our weird
location.
Yeah, this is our weird Tunnel Vision live one.
We're on location.
It's actually working on the laptop. Like CPU, we've done this before. CPU would start peaking. It's like 35%, so we're all right.
Don't jinx it.
We can handle it. We just don't. So the good thing is when we're in the studio, we can do it on 3 different platforms at once. Yeah. Now we're only doing it on YouTube. But just, we wanted to get some kind of show out here, and since we're in Denver, and it's a little chilly.
It's chilly.
Yeah, but should be nice tomorrow, hopefully. Not.
You keep saying that, and I'm not sure that's going to happen.
In the press box, it's going to be nice, but on the field, they're going to be cold.
And so I think this goes without saying, but how important is it for USC to come out and play start fast, and have the offense kind of score early, get the pressure off of themselves, but also USC's defense, just because, how many injuries. But I kind of, in the Film Feud podcast, kept referring to this as a survive in advance game. Mm-hmm. Just get the win on the road, however you can, and then reassess and reestablish yourself for Oregon next week. But kind of just do what you can to win. Yeah, there's a lot of things in play here. You got all the injuries. It's a Friday night road game in the Pac-12.
It's never a good thing.
It's awful. No. Again, the road teams don't do well in the Pac-12. It's not a good, short week. It's going to be, the weather's going to be a factor. It's going to be colder than what, Southern California guys and a Keaton Slovis Arizona guy is going to be used to. Like, this is different.
Cold in the desert.
It is cold at night in the desert.
Yeah, but this is not like snowy cold.
We just went to Notre Dame. It's basically the same temperature-wise as Notre Dame. So I don't think it's going to be anything drastic.
All these are coming into play. It's a Pac-12 South game, obviously, and that's USC's not going to the playoff or anything. You have to win. For right now, Clay Helton's focusing on the Pac-12 South. And I know some fans aren't excited that that's the new bar, but if that's what you're looking at, you need to be able to win a game against a bottom dweller right now in the Pac-12. And you can't because Colorado can be dangerous, you can't let them get going and get Laviska Shenault having a big game, or Mustafa Johnson or Stephen Montez get back on. But you have to kind of keep that going. You don't want this to be the turnaround game for Colorado. Yeah. And you don't have if you're USC, you don't have a road win yet. You need a road win. There's just so many factors in play that, like Keely said, you have to just win this game somehow. If it's ugly, fine, just get the win.
Getting a road win.
Period.
That's it. Just stop there.
Not at home, win the game.
Keely always tries to keep me from slow me down from continuing to go.
In the Family Feud podcast, I'm like, nope, stop.
Wrap it up. Here we go. But that's it for this game. Get a road win. First one for Keaton Slovis would be huge. Give him confidence going forward to an Oregon matchup that will determine pretty much if you win the Pac-12. Because I think Utah is not losing again. They could, obviously they could, and it's the Pac-12, anything can happen. But, they've looked really good the last couple times. I've seen them a little bit. So,
but because Oregon is the next game, you have that potential, the look ahead. What is the solid verb call it? The letdown look ahead sandwich or something. And Could it be a letdown game because you're looking forward to Oregon? Now, I don't think you can, like, knowing that USC hasn't won a road game. It's not like you overlook this game at all. You got to play well on the road at some point. But Oregon is coming up, and that's like, if you look back to 2016 where USC started off crappy and then made a run, they had one really good game in the middle, one tough game in the middle, and it was Washington, and they beat them on the road. Now, this is Oregon at home, but you don't need that game to win the Pac-12 if Oregon, if Utah loses, but you need to keep pace and still have control of your own destiny. You got to win that game. So you don't want to look ahead to that and then overlook Colorado.
And the interesting thing, and check out the Peristyle pregame show that will be airing, I believe, what time, Ryan, tonight?
So 11 p.m. Yeah, Peristyle pregame show, 11 p.m. On KABC in Los Angeles, or it'll be up on their website. You can stream it, and we'll put it up in podcast form in our Peristyle podcast feed. Make sure you subscribe to that.
Yeah, so on that pregame show, I have a segment with Taylor Mays, and what he was talking about is he said that this kind of sequence of games was similar to, you have a Stanford win that looks impressive, later on is not that impressive after all. You go on the road to BYU and drop the game because you had Utah the next game, and you can kind of see that where this could be a false positive for the defense. They take care of business against Arizona. Does that apply to the rest of the season? They're going on the road to Colorado, and then they have Oregon looming ahead next week. So it's an interesting parallel to see whether or not USC can kind of jump that hurdle a second time in this season. So,
I mean, a coach on the team would probably say this team's not good enough to overlook anyone.
Sure.
Because coaches love to say that. The teams that aren't good enough are usually the ones that overlook people because they're not mentally strong enough, or you're not focused enough, those type things. So yes, it's a big threat here. If Colorado was playing better the last two games, I would definitely be picking them to win this game. Just because of the things with the Friday night cold weather, still haven't won a road game, true freshmen starting on the road, all those things, all those factors in. The only thing holding me back is that Colorado's looked like trash in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Does that mean they'll look like trash this week? Not necessarily, because it's the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And it's just...
If you watch Pac-12 football, it's like amazing to see one team like, wow, that team looks great. Stanford beating Washington, like, look, they look like Stanford again. And then next week they look like absolute garbage. And you're just like, that's the Pac-12.
The transitive property in the Pac-12 is just like, what? It makes no sense. You can't really apply it.
I did a Pac-12 radio this week it was Ryan Leaf and Guy Haberman. And Guy had a theory, and I used it for my picks this week, so hopefully it works. He's like, basically just ignore what happened last week. So people think about like what happened last week, it makes a big deal. Like, just ignore what happened last week, and you'll probably be better off. You're like, oh yeah, 2 weeks ago they looked like this, but then this week, so it kind of like reverses each week.
Yeah, that's a good point. Be sure to put your questions in. We're getting them. Chuck and I are going to monitor it. We have kind of an easier job since we're not monitoring 3 separate streams. But thank you for all your questions before we get into that. But what are your guys' keys to the game, I guess, tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it starts with forcing them to tackle you. You talk about the pass defense and how terrible they are in the pass defense. It's because they don't tackle. Washington had 200 and something yards after the catch last week. You've got to do that to them, and that's why stuff like swing passes force them to show that they're going to tackle in space against your athletes. Against Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Vaughns, Michael Pittman. Even your tight ends and stuff can get out there. Jude Wolf's been playing some more. Eric Cromenhook had a nice game a couple weeks ago as well. So use those guys and make Colorado show you that they can stop them. It's kind of tiring to hear the offense say, "Well, we just take what they give us." Can you force someone else to take what you give them for once?
Yeah.
Now maybe that's just the offensive philosophy that you're never going to do that. You're simply whatever they give, that's what we'll take. But if you are a dominant team, teams have to adjust to you, not you having to constantly adjust to other teams all the time. This is a great opportunity to be able to go out and force Colorado to adjust to some of the things you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that. I mean, I think that receivers have to have a big game. I want to see the air raid go. Turnovers, as usual, they've done a good job of not turning the ball over the last couple of weeks. They forced some turnovers last week. You got to keep that going again. I don't think you can lose the turnover battle. And really just on special teams, there have been they've been like playing with fire on special teams. There's just not like a bunch of smaller bad plays, and you're just wondering, one of those times, is it going to hurt you? Is it going to kill you? They got a lucky fumble on a punt against Arizona. The guy just muffed the punt, and was it Damian Johnson was there to jump on it. So great play by him. But I think you got to win this special teams battle too. I mean, there's going to be some factors in this game that are working against you. So just go out and do what you do well, and I think they'll be fine. But you can't if they start looking just look like they're playing on the road again. I mean, it could be trouble for this team.
Yeah.
And the environment is going to be, I think that Colorado is one of 8 schools in the country that is averaging a sellout. So, they're going to pack the place.
It's a blackout.
It's a blackout. USC's done pretty well against their blackouts in the past.
Colorado and Utah are both doing blackouts on the same. They're both mountain schools. No, it's interesting. It's like both mountain schools are doing like the same thing. So yeah.
It's the time of the year to use black.
Yeah.
It's Halloween.
Right before Halloween.
They had a little Chip, the mascot. They had a little video. Colorado did a little video of him. So
heard USC is going to use blackout next week against Oregon. Wear black uniforms. Yeah.
No.
The uproar, the madness would happen. Someone said I'm using my hands a lot. I think it's because I have so much space in this camera angle. So sorry, guys. I'm gonna jump into some questions and then we can Kay on YouTube, or I guess we're only on YouTube, says you guys rock. Live call should go to Ryan's cell phone. Don't think that's a good idea, but
we could do that.
No, maybe not. One Blue Love says, what's the weather report for tomorrow night?
So it was, I think it's got like a high of 60 or something, or low 60s. I think it's in the 40 to 60 range. It should be by the evening. It'll probably be, in the 40s. It's supposed to be clear though. So is that what it's looking like?
It's 43 to 61. It's supposed to be the highs and low tomorrow. So you expect it to be, mid 40s, probably upper 40s at best for the game.
So it'll be chilly, yeah.
So, that's actually a little bit warmer than it was at Notre Dame. So, but the big question becomes wind. Because at Notre Dame, early in the game, the wind was really howling and it kind of died down. It was really howling before the game and died down near kickoff. So if the wind is blowing up here in the mountains, obviously you have altitude to deal with as well, and there's thin air. So those things can all play a factor as well with the weather, it going against potentially USC because they struggle with the altitude at BYU.
Yeah.
Who's to say they won't do the same thing in Boulder?
Yeah.
I forgot. That's one thing I forgot to mention is the altitude. When you have the kind of injuries that USC has, and then you're probably gonna need to cycle through some people and do some rotations and stuff. Now you might be getting deeper and deeper into the bench because of guys getting tired. You remember, like Drew Richmond was tired just doing warm-ups at BYU. Now we'll see if that changes, but maybe you have to do a little bit more. I don't know. We'll see. But the altitude certainly is another factor that's one of those X factors in the games that could be going against USC.
And that's another reason why I think you might see 3 running backs too, because they've talked about how Step is, he's been huffing and puffing at times. And I never really noticed it until I watched some of the Arizona game. Now he's getting a couple more carries, but you could see the chest was heaving some there. So, when guys are getting their first opportunities and being able to work their way up, like Keenan Kristen, he gets hit a couple times with a couple carries in a row, you're going to see that chest huffing a little bit. So how much do they rotate there to try to keep those guys fresh?
That's a good point. Our buddy and colleague, Gmart Live, Gerard Martinez, was in the chat, and he said, didn't know you guys are streaming. So we guessed that, but yes, we are.
He's like texting us all kinds of crap. We're like, we're about to go live, dude.
Yeah, but he also promoted 10,000 subscribers.
Oh, thanks, Gerard.
Yeah, so thanks for that. We had a question from Ricky who said, what's going on with all the injuries? With the lack of physical practices, is that part of the problem? Do we need to reevaluate the strength and conditioning coach / staff?
We get a lot of the injury stuff, and it's just, I think that's really hard to say. I mean, when you dislocate your shoulder, I don't think that's strength and conditioning. There's things that just happen. I think a lot of different factors can come into play. They've switched strength and conditioning coaches. If you were seeing like a rash of hamstring injuries, then maybe you could point to something, but I don't think that's, that it's not really what you're seeing. So I don't think you can make this correlation between, it's a strength thing. Now, if they were practicing harder, there's definitely, Taylor Mays has his theories about, hey, you practice harder, you're less likely to get hurt during games. Some people feel you don't want to practice as hard because you can get hurt during practices. I kind of buy into what Taylor's saying, that like if you could make practice a little more hard, maybe guys get banged up a little bit, but once you get into a game, those situations you're not going to get. Munir was at Abdul Malik McClain, gets a sack. Like, how many times is he tackle someone like that,
Yeah.
and the first time he does, he gets hurt, so maybe if you're doing that more in practice, maybe it doesn't happen. But I don't think you can make this direct correlation like, yeah, that's why these guys are getting hurt.
They have had a rash of shoulder injuries throughout the season. And I think part of that is not necessarily going full pads and going full strength, all the time, but tackling at full speed so that you learn your angles, learn how to get your head across in the right direction so that you're not taking as much of a brunt of an impact, as much of the force, exactly, on one body part in that regard. Now, Talanoa Hufunga, it looked like he was trying to go low, and because J.J. Taylor it's almost impossible to go low on him because of his height and the way he runs. That he ended up getting hit in the back of his shoulder actually and injuring himself there. So I think that the injuries, there's multiple factors there. There is the callus effect that a lot of people think, where if you hit more in practice, then your body is used to it and you're ready to go. So there's different things that kind of explain it. I don't think you can blame the strength and conditioning coaches. I mean, they've just been brought in, and I think everyone thinks they're doing a really good job with the team from when they got here in like February. They weren't even around for all the winter workouts and stuff, so it was kind of a slow process getting them in. So I think that it's something that you continue to monitor, but it's been an issue for about 4 years now, it feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been practices where there's 25 people out, and that's kind of the case right now. With them, and it was part of the case last year. Taylor Mays, when he first came in, the first practice he came into this year was like, why are there so many guys standing up?
Yeah.
And there were only like 10 at that time, and now it's like 20 something. I think I don't know the exact number, but there's a lot.
Right. True. Do you
I'm doing like social media posts while we're doing this, so.
I don't
Why not?
understand that.
Why are we doing it?
Sports Talk with Troy says, would it make any sense to move out one of our tight ends to the backfield for runs up the middle?
So they already use the tight ends as H-backs, so I don't think that's something they're not doing. They use the H-back, I think, I want to say, I would have to look it up here a second, but they've been using it between 10 and 22 times throughout the season in a game. And I define an H-back as anytime the tight end is lined up inside of the tackle.
He's in the tackle box.
So he's inside the tackle box, right? Even if he's just directly behind the tackle. But sometimes they put him back almost right in front where a fullback would be. They use them in different ways, and they kind of move them around a little bit. And they've had a lot of success using the H-back this season, and especially running the ball. So I think that's something that they're already kind of doing.
Ryan's ADD is
I'm
already
like stretching.
setting
I'm
in.
like stretching a little. It's like I'm
Behind the curtain, this couch is super slouchy.
we're like
A
sitting
plus
on
posture tonight. But let's go to another question. Thank you, Shotgun, for actually answering these questions. Jasper Smith says, are there any players from other position groups that can play running back? We kind of already mentioned that with Bayless Jones, maybe outside the box. Anyone else? Adoree Jackson? No.
Brandon Keely,
That'd be cool.
No, I'm just trying to think of any of those DBs that played running back in high school and stuff, and no one's coming to mind off the top.
Didn't Isaac Taylor Stewart?
Oh, Isaac Taylor Stewart did, yeah. So that would be one, and some people were clamoring for him to play running back last year. I felt like they didn't realize that he was out for the season with a significant ankle injury. And they just kept going, why is he not playing? He should be playing running back. I'm like, well, he's hurt. That's why he's not playing.
Yeah.
And he's been really good at cornerback this year. I think all three of those starting corners, because all three of them have been starters from multiple games with the injuries they've had. I think they've done a really good job out there. Getting OG back would be a big boost for them just to give them another body over there because he's been really good as well. And hopefully that back holds up because once it's happened twice, now you start wondering, is that a lingering thing is going to bother him continually as the season progresses?
People are funny in the comments. Sorry. Hunter Eccles' dad is in the chat, active again. Thank you again for watching. We always appreciate it.
It's LC, right?
Yeah. John says, any normal Facebook user switch to YouTube. Thank you for being versatile. He says, any status updates on Drew McCoy or Kyle Ford? I talked to Kyle Ford briefly after the Notre Dame game. He said he hopes to be back in a couple of games. He's been warming up with the team, kind of getting more reps in practice and whatnot. So he looks like on more on the up and up. Drew McCoy is still in the ether in that sense.
Yeah.
But we did see him on the sideline for the Arizona game. So he's there, but I don't think we'll see him really practice this season.
Nice.
hard to emote.
Oh yeah, it's like
One Blue Love says, Ryan, why do you assume that Utah won't lose another game?
I think Shotgun was saying that, not me. But no, Utah can. It's the Pac-12. They still got to play Washington. Washington, I thought, would be a lot better than they are. Their defense hasn't been good. The problem is, if you're, as a USC person, you watched Utah against USC, and that was definitely their worst game. It just didn't look like, if you watch their other games, they look a lot better. I think they were stubborn on defense when they're playing USC. They didn't take the formula that works. They tried to man up early on, and it just, they got torched. Jalen Johnson is one of the best cornerbacks in the Pac-12, and he looked pretty terrible in that game. So watching them afterwards, Tyler Huntley's been great. Zach Moss is awesome. He got banged up in the USC game too. They look like a legit team, and they don't have to play Oregon. If they can get past Washington, they'll be favored in all those rest of the games, and maybe against Washington too. But it's the Pac-12, and they certainly could lose one. I think if you're USC, you got to assume that Utah's going to win out, and you want to win out yourself and give yourself a chance. If USC goes 8-4, like loses to Oregon, and still wins the South, because Utah, say, loses to Washington, it's like, how are you going to feel great about that? Like an 8-4 season and going to play Oregon, and I don't know. I think for USC, like winning the South is nice, but you want to win out. Just get on some kind of run, beat a good Oregon team, beat a feisty Arizona State team, beat your rival UCLA, and then you'll feel better about things. So I think that's kind of. I don't think you need to worry about what Utah's doing. If you lose another game, it's like I don't know if it matters all that much.
I don't even know what the question was. I was looking up Kyle Ford quote. Sorry, over here. To go back to that, I talked to Kerry Colbert last week or 2 weeks ago. I asked him about Kyle Ford and Brew McCoy. He said Brew's doing as much as he can to get ready, as far as mental reps and stuff. And he said he's learning the offense, continuing to learn the offense. He's still not practicing with the team, so he's not going to play. He's not going to be on the field at all this season. Don't expect that.
Yeah.
Kyle Ford, on the other hand, he said he's preparing like he's going to play.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case where if you see one of those outside two wide receivers go down, you might see Kyle Ford start to get work in the rotation. I don't think it'll be too long before. I think part of it is they're not going to rush him in right now, knowing that he has 4 games and he's probably going to redshirt. You don't want to play him 5 and burn his redshirt. Unfortunately for Munir McClain, he ends up not being able to redshirt this year, even though. And the question now becomes with an ACL. When is he ready next year? You're going to lose him for half the season next year, so he's going to get a full season, and it's going to be counting for 2 of his years of eligibility, because the first half of this season, second half of next year.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just rush Kyle Ford back and then use a red shirt that you don't have to, especially when you still have Pittman, Vaughns, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think he's a guy that, as the season continues to progress, you might see him get a couple reps, especially those last 4 games or so. You might see him start working his way in.
The interesting thing with Kyle Ford is with Munir McClain going down, he was basically backing up Tyler Vaughns. If Tyler Vaughns needs a blow in this game, Graham Harrell said this week, it most likely would be like an Amon-Ra St. Brown going out and taking the reps outside, because they have more receivers that can play inside than the outside. So if Kyle Ford comes back and he could be that outside guy, there could be some real opportunities for him.
True, because Velus Jones has actually been was the backup for Michael Pittman last game as well. So, he's the guy you expect to be the slot guy, but no, he was outside. You had Drake London, he's been playing that 4th receiver spot. He was actually backing up Amon-Ra St. Brown at times.
Okay.
When they went with a full second unit of receivers for just a few plays, but on one drive, they had that where it was Velus Jones on one side, Munir McClain on the other, and then in the slot was Drake London. Now, John Jackson also has played in the slot, and he played a little bit at the end of the game as well. But Drake London they're keeping inside right now. So Velus is the guy that's kind of bounced outside to be an extra backup after the loss of David Williams.
Yeah. Super OC Home says, when did the football team arrive to acclimate? They arrived today.
Yeah, I think was that on Instagram? Did you see it? They landed
around like 3-ish.
I thought you guys were landing a little earlier than that.
Don't even start.
Should we go there? Or no?
No, we're not going there.
Okay.
Sinke?
We were supposed to be on the same flight for some reason.
We missed the flight. Ryan wants to be a troll. End of story. Malcolm, I believe you say, it says lack of tackling doesn't make you turn your ankle, which another person said, Mastrovici, I believe, says, will the Coliseum turf be improved for the Oregon game? It was awful last week. How much does the turf really play into USC's injuries?
It could. Shotgun had some great pictures. You should check them out.
Yeah.
I mean, the turf was just all torn up. I went back to look the away game that I had been to because Notre Dame is a synthetic turf. BYU is a grass field. I went back and looked, and there's barely any divots on the very final play when Keaton Slovis throws interception. I was looking through my photos just to see, how bad is there. Not at all. USC's field looked terrible late in that fourth quarter. Just chunks were flying up on a lot of plays, and you saw, and I don't know if it can directly be attributed to the field, but you saw the field give way, particularly on the Drake Jackson one. That one just looks like it's definitely the field. But the other ones, Stephen Carr, he plants his foot, the turf gives way, and then his next step, he appears, is when he injures his leg, between one of those two steps. So it was that when he got hurt. Marquis Step, his foot got caught in the turf. So you see these guys, it doesn't seem like the turf is allowing them to do what it should be allowing them to do. And if I'm USC, I'm furious about it. Yeah. Now, I don't know if they are, but if I'm the coaching staff, I'm yelling at somebody. I'm walking over to the Coliseum and being like, somebody's got to get this figured out. Yeah. And part of it is there is extra wear and tear with the Rams being there.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game where you could see the Rams underneath the USC logos and whatnot.
Yeah, and you see the logos on the field, but just at the end of the game, there are just divots everywhere. Yeah. And you see some guys slipping, like Liam Jimmy slipped. Those things happen, but the field just gave way on him. Unfortunately, that's not an injury concern. USC ended up getting a sack on that play, I believe it was. But that's okay, whatever. You give up a sack, but when you lose multiple players to injury, you lose 6 players in a game is unheard of. A multi-cart night.
I love saying that.
It's crazy that there were multiple carts. USC had multiple players carted out during the game, and then after the game, they still had multiple carts have to come and get multiple players. So, I think the turf, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be something that is talked about a little bit more, and USC had a lot of injuries, and that definitely didn't help.
Yeah.
We're not doctors, so, it's hard for us to say these things. But I did get an email this week from a sports medical professional who was going to offer his services on the podcast, so we might try some of that. Get a little expert opinion on there. So
Okay.
Because we might be talking out of our butts when we're talking about injuries, but
or just in general.
Yeah.
Heather Browning says, "Is there a pep rally tomorrow?"
There was one today, I believe. Yeah. So it's Thursday. So I think
pep rally's usually the day before.
Yeah. So there was something. Yeah, there was definitely something.
There was something, yeah.
Well, okay, but the weird thing is that Art Varner was on our flight.
That's true.
So was it today? Not sure.
I think it was.
Sorry, Heather.
We're
not going to help.
Yes.
No, there was. I saw like a thing. There was like the Colorado group. They did something. They definitely did something today. But yeah.
Ron Major says, "Was Keely late to the airport? Girls need everything perfect." I was not the late one. That's all I'm going to say. Chris Collins says, "Do you guys think that the excitement of greater playing time for them for second, third, and fourth string players might negate the trap game looking to Oregon mentality that might normally affect starters?"
I mean, young guy getting their first play, like if Dominic Davis gets in there, he's not looking for anything but doing something right now.
Yeah, but you're worried about the starters looking ahead, the guys that are actually playing, not the second, third, fourth string. Now, the guys that are getting bumped up, the Keenan Christens of the world, you're not worried about just trying to grasp every opportunity they get. But as far as the rest of the group that got in at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, I don't think they have as much of an impact on it.
I didn't even realize what we had in the background. I got
some donuts over Shotgun's head.
Oh, there's donuts. No, there's not.
Heather says,
I like donuts.
Apparently. Why don't we run any reverses?
It's something that's you kind of wonder where's a trick play?
Yeah, there hasn't been any really.
Some trick play.
Some of that stuff just isn't set up well either, where you have to set those things up with things,
Yeah,
and I don't know if they're really doing that.
USC's basically used jet sweep motion maybe once or twice this season. Once off the top of my head that I can think of. So it's not something that's been in the regular rotation. So, those jet sweeps, you don't necessarily see, those aren't necessarily reverses, but like end arounds and some different looks that they can give. They're not necessarily doing much of that stuff. I would look, if you're going to look for a trick play, I would look, and because we don't get to watch practice anymore, I can say things like this because I don't know if they're practicing these things or not. But if I was going to run a trick play, if I was USC, I'm looking for double passes because you got Tyler Vaughns who can throw the ball really, really far.
Yeah.
You got Drake London who can throw the ball. There's guys that have some arms on that team, so those might be options. And a guy that you would look for like reverses and things would be a guy like Bayless Jones who's not going to play.
Yeah, I think the only issue would be though is if you're facing a defense that is dropping 8 guys back into coverage.
Yeah, reverses aren't going to work.
Yeah, and that double pass thing might be tough because you still got a whole bunch of D-biggies back. You want to get someone wide open running down the sideline or whatever, and there's going to be a bunch of guys back.
The thing is, the way they ran those wide receiver screens last week, that might be something you can pop something off of.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not a trick play necessarily, but maybe it's you hit them a couple times, and then you actually send the blocker deep. Those type of plays. Oregon does those really well with Herbert, where they'll wide receiver screen, the blocker, and the blocker takes off up the sideline, and he hits a big play there. Those aren't trick plays necessarily, but those are wrinkles that USC can still implement that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jasper Smith says, will Keaton Slovis implement more QB scramble runs for 5 to 6 yard gains, then slide like Helton alluded to?
Jasper, he's a newbie, right? Is he new to the?
I mean, I think I kind of pointed out that the way that Arizona defended him to keep him from running out of the pocket more last game. So I think Colorado will try to implement that as well.
Sheldon says, hey guys, if SC does the impossible and win out, which I don't think they will, he says, will it make the decision to whether or not to fire Helton will it make the decision to fire Helton when the new AD comes harder, I believe he's trying to say. What do you expect if USC does win out for some reason?
Well, I mean,
For some reason.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
when a new AD comes in, if USC is 9-3 and like won the Pac-12 South or won the Pac-12, and you want to get rid of them, I mean, it does make that probably makes things a little bit more difficult. The more losses, the easier it is. But I think you can justify, if you're the AD and you want to make a change, following 5-7 with 3 more losses early in the season, losing to BYU. I mean, you can definitely justify it. Like, hey, this is not the direction the program wants to go. So to me, it just depends on who gets hired as the athletic director. The stronger the hire, like the more competent the athletic director, then I don't think that stuff matters as much. They're going to look at what's the future. Is it with Clay Helton or not, no matter what happened in the last 6 games. And then the weaker the hire, then it would probably be more of the whims of whatever happens the rest of the season. I think you have to have someone strong in there that knows we want Clay Helton to be the leader of this program for the next half decade, or we don't, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
It's just going to be an interview process. Some people will keep saying, well, he's gone regardless. If Kim Helton, his dad, gets the AD job, guess what? He's still going to get to stay. Relationships are everything. It's going to be, whenever they hire a new AD, and if Clay Helton doesn't know this person, it's going to be an interview process. Well, the rest of the season is part of that interview process. Yep. It's all the data points go into it. Now, to some people that would become the AD, to some people already say, yeah, the data points I've seen so far tell me I would make a change if I were to take over that job. But not every AD has made that decision yet. Not everybody who's even in the running has made that decision yet. So it depends on all those things, all those factors. When someone is finally hired, it seems like this process is taking a little while too.
It's kind of taking a while.
Yeah. So we'll see on that. Truck Ranger says, Keely, is it true you've never seen snow? I have seen snow. I'm just easily excited. And I think this is the 3rd or 4th time I've seen snow. It's still novel to me is the point. I think.
Yeah. We're in the Uber on the way over here. There's snow. She's very
I was very excited. And I was dead, but the snow awakened me.
Yeah, she was about to sleep like, oh, snow.
Yeah, it's so exciting, guys. Jasper Smith has another question. He says, with the corners coming back from injury, will guys like Jaden Williams or Max Williams maybe not play to the limit? Will they play to the 4-game redshirt limit, is what he's saying.
I believe Jaden Williams is already over it. I'll check right now while Ryan gets
I think Max Williams is going to be I think he's shown he needs to be out there on the field. So,
And Clay Helton did say that Greg Johnson is not fully 100%, so
Yeah.
you are going to see the rotation of Max and Greg at that nickel
yeah,
spot.
I'm not sure about Jaden Williams, but I think for Max Williams, he's going to be out there more. So,
Jaden Williams is long past. He's already at 7 games. He's
Wow.
played in every game so far this season. He's
well,
on special teams.
Yeah.
So Max Williams is actually at 3. So he's
He's gonna go
excuse me, he's at 2. He's going to go past that. They want to see him more and more. And actually, it will kind of depend on if Greg Johnson stays healthy. Maybe they don't, but I think you'll see him rotating at that spot. But even last week when he was the starter, Kaulana McCalla also still rotated in. Even before they put all the subs in late in the game, he was still rotating in. So I think that that's another guy you look at as they're probably going to use him on special teams and do some things with him rather than redshirting. I had one coach tell me that he would never redshirt anyone.
And I was about to bring this up. Sinke on YouTube says, if a guy can play, then play him, stop the redshirt mess. And that's something that I talked about with Dan Weber is and specifically talking about Keenan Kristen, especially when you're talking about running backs, their shelf life is shorter. Do you really think about that whole redshirt, or you just let the best players play?
Well, the thing is, as a coach, you have to look at a guy like Keely Christian. You have to look at, okay, what do I have available the next year, the next 2 years? What does my recruiting look like this year too? Because that plays all into it. Because you don't want you want to play a guy, but if you don't recruit anybody this year that didn't, he was the only recruit they had last year. You lose Stephen Carr, you lose Vi. Now you're really thin on running backs, and you see how quickly running backs can be injured. So you're saying, hey, we need him for a later year, rather than it's kind of just roster management there rather than talent management.
Yeah.
So that sometimes plays into it.
Right? Any thoughts on? Well, what's your thoughts on the redshirt rule? Redshirting guys that have talent.
Yeah, I think at this point you just see people, if they're really good, they're going to go pro, and if they can play and they can contribute, especially right now where you're a coaching staff fighting for you're not really thinking about the future. You're thinking about you got to win right now. So I'm not big on the whole. I don't worry about stockpiling guys. You're going to recruit more guys. You're going to bring people in, and sometimes you don't want to redshirt people if they're not around. You don't even want them around that long. Sometimes like it's someone that comes in and they're not as good as you thought they were when you were recruiting them, and you want them to get out of the system faster. Like it keeps them around an extra year. So I like playing guys. I'm not big on the whole redshirt thing.
The thing with freshmen is this is the time of the season when you see guys start to take off a little bit, start to get the grasp of the game, get the concepts, all the different things, and then they start making plays. And that's when you go, okay, you maybe at this point you go, okay, well, let's try them out and let's play them a little bit and let's see. And if they're not contributing much, then you say we don't necessarily need them in one of these last games, and we'll save the red shirt and give them an extra year eligibility. Maybe we need them down the line, type of thing. But if they're contributing and they're pushing forward, like a guy like Max Williams, who they wanted to get in, but obviously the injury, because you never know, you play them now and they roll their ankle next week, then you say, okay, well, Isaac Taylor Stewart, there was no way he was going to redshirt last year until he got hurt. And then you say, okay, there's no reason to rush him back for the last game or two of the season when he might have been able to come back. So you just say, let's redshirt him and focus on next year.
Yeah. Jasper Smith keeps coming in with the questions. Other people need to step their game up so we can have some variety of questions. But Jasper Smith says, can Keenan Kirsten run routes if he's flexed outside with a linebacker or safety cornering him?
I mean, I'm sure he can run routes.
We haven't seen that a lot, but I think
we haven't seen much because we don't get to watch practice anymore.
Yeah.
But he's super fast. You can easily run goes anytime with really fast people. Question becomes not can he run a route, can he catch the ball? And we haven't seen that in the game experience, so that makes it more difficult. That's why those check downs, those are so easy. Those give guys confidence.
Yeah.
Not every check down has to be a difficult catch like some of the ones Stephen Carr has made this season. He's made some really tough catches on balls that the quarterbacks could give him easier. But if they're just standing out there and you just toss it to them, that's an easy catch, gives them a little confidence. That's the Devin Williams theory, from last year, that I really wanted them just to throw a screen to Devin Williams, give him a little confidence. Build guys' confidence up. That's a huge thing that gets overlooked. People forget about how much a freshman comes in, expects to be the man. I'm the man. Oh, I'm not playing for 6 games? Okay. I guess I'm not the man. But then you get a catch and you go, okay, I'm a man again. Let's go. And then
Great acting skills, Shaka. But yes, good points all around. A Truck Ranger says, what are Colorado's strong points that might affect USC?
LaVisca.
Yeah.
Shit.
I mean, like when he's on his game, he's the best receiver in the Pac-12. He might be the best short yardage running back in the Pac-12. He can make good things happen on the field. He just hasn't had that breakout game yet. So if he does, he's just a dude that's really hard to contain, and he had some really good chemistry with Steven Montez, and that we just haven't seen that much this year. But guys have been banged up. Montez hasn't played well. It's just the stars of Colorado play like they are capable of playing. That's what's going to be dangerous for USC.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, he's still in several mock drafts as a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
They only take usually 2 or 3 of those wide receivers per year in the first round, so that tells you the talent he has.
Yeah.
They've got to try to get the ball in his hands. They've run the ball really well the last couple weeks. Ran for over 150 yards, I think, both the last 2 games. So that's something that USC should be concerned. Mel Tucker, he's a defensive coach. That's what he wants to do. He wants to be able to run the ball when they want to run the ball. So look for them to try to establish the run early. USC needs to shut that down and focus a lot of attention on LaVisca.
Do we know if he's 100% healthy? I don't think he is, right?
I don't think he's been 100% healthy since Palier-Natiote lit him up last year.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's supposed to be this is the game that's supposed to be more.
And he was even injured at that time. There was question marks going into that game, I think, if I remember correctly, whether or not he would play. So he's had some ankle injuries and stuff. So, him being healthy, he did have a running touchdown last week. He scored their only touchdown when they got dominated by Washington State. But he's only got, last year he had 5 games over 100 yards. I think one of them was 200-yard game. This season only 1 so far, and only 1 other game where he got to 70 yards. So
yeah, he only has 2 touchdowns on the year, and so that's Was it Tony Brown? They have another receiver.
Katie Nixon.
Oh yeah, Nixon has a bunch. So, yeah.
And also Brown stepped up, I think, one game when he got injured.
Right,
he had 3 touchdowns in one game.
I think that was when Chenault got hurt.
Yeah. Ron A says, what happened to student body right?
Did the game evolved?
That was the 1960s.
That's because there was a comment earlier about, and I think it's related to Keenan Kristen, was that Charlie White went about 180, 185. He did okay. He was durable too. Well, he wasn't facing guys that are the size that are consistently the size of Palier-Natiote or Taylor Mays as a safety. Safeties were 180 pounds too. It's much different when they're 220 pounds, 230 pounds. The game has evolved. The offensive linemen, there's so many stories out there about how the offensive linemen are so much bigger now than they were back then. So you can't really compare size to size over a 50-year span.
Yeah. Steve says, do you foresee a running back controversy when Stepp and Carr return back to the lineup?
I don't know. I mean, they don't play. It's hard to have a controversy,
There was already one, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, people have been clamoring for Stepp for several weeks, so.
And now it's a crime that Kristen hasn't played and stuff. And
yeah,
he might go out there and not have a big run this time, and you're like, oh, where'd that go? It's he only had 8 carries, and 2 of them were huge touchdown runs. That's hard to sustain. I don't know if you're going to be.
Yeah.
If you're expecting that every time, I don't know if that's going to be happening.
It's kind of the shiny toy theory where fans are just ooh, shiny toy, ooh, let's use that, and it's well, hold on, we got to look at the big picture here. No. But yeah. We'll see.
His speed's a game changer, though. So you would think that now that they've seen it on the field, USC would try to implement it in some different ways. The big thing for him will be seeing if he can have a similar growth as Marquise Stepp. Marquise Stepp really grew from the first game or second game of the season to the Notre Dame game. His vision, and that's just getting adjusted, getting acclimated to the speed, to the blocks and stuff in front of you. I think all those things can happen for Keenan Kristen as well. But we'll see what he does this game versus last game when he had 2 holes where he went untouched, and those were the 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Jared says, would you want to see USC be a part of that HBO college football series for next season, or do you think that's a bad idea?
No, I think it'd be great.
Oh, hell yeah.
I haven't even seen it, but how much has it helped? I don't get HBO. I don't know. Too cheap. I don't. It's I don't want to have a video game console in my house because it's going to waste time. If I get HBO, it's going to waste more of my time because I'm going to watch stuff.
Speaking of wasting time.
Right. What were we talking about? Arizona State. Herm Edwards, that's a huge recruiting, to see him out there they can use that as a recruiting tool. And you see Arizona it's a completely shut down program. You don't get to talk to anyone. You don't have to watch anything. Herm Edwards wide open. They're going to get more recruits because of that. And then that might make Arizona think, like, crap, we better open some stuff up too. So when you have all the state secret crap going on and USC is going more and more in that direction, you see something like what Arizona State's doing, that the recruits love that stuff. So I think that could only help recruiting. And USC's got so many weird things going on. I think it'd be fun to find out, like, what's going on behind the scenes there. That doesn't make much sense.
The different dynamics and stuff would be interesting to see. So yeah, I would definitely want to see the behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
I would definitely want me to be involved in the behind the scenes.
I'd be jealous because I'm like, I want that access, but yeah. Ryan, is this also a window for your formal apology to Herm Edwards? Because you were a
okay. First of all, I was not alone, and I've said that I've said this many times since then. I'm like, hey, he did a great job.
True.
Last year they finished second in the Pac-12 South, and they were 7-5. Basically, what's his name? Was it Graham? Who was the coach the year before for Herm?
What's his face?
Todd Graham.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I blanking on his name? I mean, they have the same record and stuff, but they look a lot better. I think the staff he's assembled has been really good. They play this NFL style where it's like every game is close. The last game wasn't, but most every game is close. They're winning. I think they're 5-1 in games decided by 3 points or less. Are they going to be able to maintain that? Probably not, but he's done a really good job with that. He's doing well recruiting. He's a great motivator, and he's definitely more of a CEO, something that, like Clay Helton has said, he kind of wanted to do. So, I think he's done way better than most people thought, and I've said that, I've been saying that for a while. Like, yeah, he's doing a lot better certainly than I thought he was going to.
It all started with his hires. The guys he hired underneath him, giving them control, and getting a guy like Antonio Pierce, and being able to enable him to recruit Southern California. I thought that's the part they would struggle with the most is recruiting. What are all these rules? He was even talking about it in his first introductory press conference.
I mean, he didn't know what jerseys looked like anymore. I mean, there was some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But it worked. It was like kind of campy or whatever. It just worked.
Yeah.
And so he's being himself, but he knows how to delegate. And that's often a way overlooked point in head coaching. And that's something I think Clay Helton struggles with at times. He wanted to do everything on the offense. He wanted to do, I got to do this, I got to do this. Well, you got to be able to find the right people, and that's been an issue too. Having Neil Callaway continue on as long as he did, that was an issue. But find the right people and let them do their thing. Now, getting a guy like Graham Harrell, yes, I think that was a good move, and I think that we've seen some positive things from the offense. There's still some question marks there as well, but I think that Herm Edwards, what he did was he found the right people and is delegating. And they don't have the most talent in the world, but they got a really good young quarterback, so they're going to be good for the next few years behind Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
We've reached the top of the hour, so let's go into rapid fire mode.
Yeah.
If you want to get your questions in. Mastrovici says, does the transfer portal stay or go next year?
I think it stays. They might tweak the rules a little bit.
In what sense? What are you saying?
I think because there's going to be too many players that are out in the cold, I think they have to tweak the rules to something to help them. So either give some schools scholarships back if you guys go into the portal, make it a little more restrictive, because right now it's just that the portal was flooded and then all these people didn't find a home and they're kind of left out in the cold. So I think they got to try to fix that somehow.
That's a good point. Steve says, assuming SC and Oregon win this weekend, do you think there's a good chance that game day is coming to USC?
There's a shot of that. Look, I didn't swear. It doesn't matter. I guess you can swear on it.
I guess so, true.
But yeah, no, I think there's a chance that happens. But there's not like a great slate of games, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the slate. That's why
there was a thread on the Peristyle. Someone went through and looked at all the games, and there's actually not a lot of games happening that week. And it could be a preview of the Pac-12 championship game. So
yeah, I think they do like to go to the West Coast if they can. Oregon is a team that's that people are going to talk about as a potential playoff team. I'm not seeing it. I just don't think the Ohio States, Oklahomas, Clemson's are going to lose. I don't think Oregon is going to get in. Unless some crazy stuff happens, but there's talk about it. So, and if USC, won a couple games in a row, albeit against Arizona and Colorado, there's a chance that the game day could come.
And if if Clemson loses, then Oregon has a better resume to Clemson.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So-
Clemson loses for sure.
Yeah.
So
But
there's
the problem
still an
is
outside
who's
chance.
going to beat Clemson? Like there's.
Who almost lost to North Carolina in Mac
I
Brown's
know the
first year.
ACC is pretty terrible. I'm not sure.
I don't know, too.
I just think
Remember
that
they
losing
should've-
that Auburn game is just like it was kind of like season over. To me, season was over at Pac-12, like week 1.
They should have lost last year to Boston College, and they were rescued by basically like a walk-on third-string guy at quarterback because Lawrence got knocked out in the game. So you never know what's going to happen in college football. What you think you know, besides Nick Saban's going to be really good every year. Besides that, you don't really know.
Which makes it fun. Jerry says, how effective do you believe the run game will be this week for USC?
I already said I think it's going to be more of a pass-happy offense. That's just my thought. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it'll be fine.
What is your definition of fine?
I don't think it'll be special, but I think it'll be fine.
I kind of think it's going to be below average for some reason, but we'll see.
Truth Hurt says, I want to know, do any of you think it's Clay Helton is to blame for USC's downward trend?
I mean, he's the head coach. You start with him and the people above him.
Yeah.
The people above him also play into it too. But as far as the football program, yes, he's the leader. You always blame the leader.
But I blame. I mean, a lot of it's Pat Hayden, the guy who hired him. I think there's been some horrible leadership at USC. They need Carol Folt to come in and fix a lot of it. Getting rid of Lynn Swan was the first right move. Now you got to see the next couple. So they need important, competent people at the highest positions, and they haven't had that. And they need to do that. And if you can do that, you can get this program back on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about the head coach. It's about the people around him as well. And you can't just keep hiring your buddies and all. Like, that's just, it's over. That time is over. So it's going to be up to Carol Folt to come in and start cleaning house. She started to do that. We'll see how far it goes.
Yep. John says, will we see Traveler at the game? Would Ralphie be okay with that? Traveler doesn't travel during games.
No, Traveler does. I interviewed.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not. I mean, not most of the time. Traveler can. The team has to approve it and all this kind of stuff. But
Colorado won't happen because Keely was saying there's not much room on the sidelines or anything like that. So.
Yeah, it's really tight. Like for us, when we have to go from different ends of the end zone, we actually have to go into the stands and then come back down. So it's a rough.
But Ralphie and Traveler would get along. But Ralphie is the coolest thing in college football. So bar none, Ralphie is the coolest thing. So I'm very excited to see Ralphie again.
You don't think there'd be a Bevo Ugga moment?
They fought a little bit. Yeah.
What would that look like?
Bevo's kind of cool, but Bevo just kind of sits around. Ralphie is like a participant. Ralphie runs, and there's people that run with him. A live buffalo running around. That is the coolest thing in college football.
The fact that our jobs tomorrow will involve standing in the middle of a college football field while a buffalo runs around us.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
You ever go to Catalina and see the bison there and stuff? That's pretty neat. This is Ralphie running on the football field. We love Traveler running around and stuff, but this is a whole nother world.
I should just state that there are no buffalo in North America. They are bison. There are only buffalo found in Africa and in Asia. Same.
Home on the range. Ricky has an interesting question. If the 2020 class doesn't improve to at least the top 25, what does that do to the perception of USC and the conference?
Well, I think that teams like Oregon and Washington and Arizona State, to a little bit of an extent, are picking it up in place of USC. I don't think it's that they're going out and getting guys across the country the way USC is capable of when they are at their top. To an extent, they're getting some guys, but not the high-end top 15, top 20 guys in the country. So I think it hurts the conference more that guys are leaving, the number of guys that are leaving. So I don't think it's necessarily what USC's ranking is. It's that you've got a lot of really good players like Bryce Young and DJ Uwangalele that are going across the country to Alabama and Clemson and places like that.
It doesn't hurt the perception of USC. The leadership at USC hurts the perception, and that's why the recruiting class stinks. You fix the leadership, and then you get the recruiting class back. It's fine. You fixed it by hiring the right people.
Super OC Home says, does Keely think this is recorded on 3D. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. This is Keely on 1 hour of sleep is what you're seeing. Kevin says, has the team trained for altitude this time around? I'm worried we could see some issues with endurance due to the lack of substitutions on defense.
Yeah, they practiced at the top of the Wade Phillips Hall building, so to a little more altitude. No, how do you prepare for that? Like,
Wade Phillips Hall.
That's like the tall building near the practice
Proving
field.
your alumni ship, Ryan.
I did go to school there twice.
You did the little mask, like the little the trains with that. Yeah.
Basketball players a lot of times.
Oh yeah, I don't think they can do anything really for the altitude.
Yeah.
But I mean, that I know.
You could come a day early and practice. That would be
Why
better.
would you do
but
that? You know, that would just make
That's
no
not what they
sense.
do. They're not paying money to stay in the hotels.
We have multiple questions about Dan Weber. One Blue Love says, how come Dan Weber hasn't made a tunnel vision appearance? How come Dan isn't at the Airbnb? Heather says Dan is her hero.
Dan doesn't like allergens. Dan kind of does his own thing when he comes. He likes to stay near the airport. He gets his car. He's gonna pick. We didn't get a car because he's got a car. He's gonna pick us up and go to the game. We have 4 people covering this game against the worst team in the Pac-12. I don't know. This is me being a bad manager. But we're gonna have wall-to-wall coverage for you, so that's good. But I don't know if that's the best use of our resources, but whatever. But yeah, Dan usually does his own thing. So.
Jared says, is there a chance that USC might lose their next 3 games after this game against Colorado? Plus, with a 6-6 record, what bowl game would USC go to?
I hate a lot of things. Like, I don't hate a lot of things about college football. I love college football. I hate a couple things about college football.
Okay.
I hate bowl projections, and I hate watch lists for stupid awards. Like when they send out emails.
And it's just like,
and they keep doing that season. And then people are making bowl projections. And it's like week 5. I'm like, you have no idea what's going on. Like, you can't make bowl projections at the end of the season, let alone half the season's over. So I have no clue.
Is this your version of Shotgun's hypotheticals? You're just shutting it down?
I don't know. Like 6
Well,
and
I'm
6.
not saying, like, I hate hypotheticals.
Does it matter? Like, who cares? Like, if USC 6 and 6, like
People
things are
care
getting
about
blown up.
preseason polls too. There
Yeah.
shouldn't be a poll until like 6 weeks in, but
Do any of these
Sure.
polls matter except for the college football playoff poll?
no.
So
I still think the AP matters. There's AP national championship stuff. The AP matters to me. I think the coaches doesn't matter.
Preseason poll matters to fans. That's why they do it, because it
Yeah.
drums up entertainment and investment. People are invested in their team because they're in a top 25 team. They'll go to the games.
true. Carry on says, question, with Jake Garcia coming in, do you think the quarterback competition will actually open again with JT Slovis and Garcia?
He's 2021.
Yeah, so he's going to be a year away still. But I think there is going to be a competition with JT and Slovis. That's going to be open whenever JT comes back. That's a big question, is when he's going to be physically ready.
Hold on. I saw something that said Ricky Ellison AD. No. Stop. People keep coming up with horrible ideas. Maybe no. You
Not
don't
just
know.
once, but like 47 times.
Yeah.
We're just going to.
Why would you ever consider hiring anyone who hasn't been an athletic director before? USC should put a bylaw in there. You can never hire a former football player to be the athletic director ever again, because you've had your worst 2 athletic directors in history back to back. So stop doing that. Terrible ideas. Don't do that.
We just got a Ryan rant on the road. So
Road Ryan rant.
Also,
exciting.
this is why we don't let Ryan control the questions, because when you spam over and over and over, we're not going to read your stuff.
Yeah, we have a filtering process that we go through.
Ryan just jumps in.
No,
Ryan's
I
like,
saw that.
"No."
Maybe
Ryan
you
sees-
should go to counseling. Like, there's no what are you like? No, like this is not no.
Okay. Truth Hurt says, do you guys have any favorite players? Like players to interview? I'll take it as that, I guess. Players you root for?
I mean, Tyler Vaughn is my guy.
True.
But I don't really talk to him that much anymore. But he knows. He knows I'm smart. Everyone knows.
He knows.
He knows.
Like Michael Castillo and Dom Davis.
Right? Yeah. That's a strange relationship, but that's good.
Yeah, yeah. but
They keep playing that drop of him running on the Arizona
Dom
sideline.
Davis on the sideline.
Yeah. If that happens tomorrow, he's gonna go crazy.
True.
Yeah, I'm always defending Tyler Vaughn. I don't know. I like him a lot.
I'm adoring Jackson. It's my favorite player I've
Yeah,
covered so
yeah.
far.
Juju was a favorite.
Juju was
The
awesome.
weird thing, there's a Madden commercial where Juju comes in and he pours ice on someone and he's like, Juju! And I'm like, that happened to me before this commercial, because when Deontay Burnett, it was his birthday, and he like poured it on me and I was like, Juju! Sorry, tangent. One of my favorite players to talk with is Munir McClain, just because Chris and I did a story, a documentary on him before the season, and so it was sad to see him go down on Saturday. But there's a lot of fun guys to talk to.
Talanoa's awesome.
Yeah,
like there's a lot. That's what's good. There's a lot of really good.
It's
guys
a good
on the team.
chemistry, a good team of guys who are nice and respectful to the media, which is always nice. Makes your job easier. Carry on says, is there a reason why we couldn't continue to use the tight ends to bail us out of situations, mainly because our tight ends are freakishly huge?
I mean, to use the tight end, Keaton Slovis did a better job in that Notre Dame game of finding the tight end, the Arizona game of finding the tight end as check down receivers as well, in the middle of the field. So I think that it's a work in progress. I think that's a next step for a true freshman quarterback is to be able to look at downfield targets, come back to shorter targets, and a guy like a tight end, can work his way open. Croman Hook had some nice catches.
Happy birthday, Christian.
Hey, Christian, happy birthday.
You
got the official Tunnel Vision birthday shout out.
Well done.
Way to be born.
We have someone making, say, press this number if you agree with this, and then so I'm just seeing all these random numbers in there. That's weird.
Stop that.
We have a hashtag free Dan Weber.
We've had Dan on television before. He's on the podcast every week,
True. Just going through all these numbers, trying to find a question. Let's see. Oh, someone said, do we have a Ben Griffiths update? Performance update. He's doing better.
He's better.
There's your update.
They fumbled one of his punts in the last game, so.
Nolan says.
Did he get a tackle? I think he got a tackle too, didn't he?
No. But he was super he might have tackled, Damon Johnson because he was super excited about that.
Yeah.
He also had the coffin corner on his final punt that put him out at the 3-yard line, and then you watched Arizona go 97 yards against the backups.
True.
Yeah. Nolan says, let's just say in some fantasy world, shocking, cover your ears, USC runs the table, wins the Pac-12, and the Rose Bowl. Does Clay Helton stay?
I mean, that's like I said, depends on who the athletic director is. Like, you could still get rid of Clay Helton after winning the Rose Bowl, potentially. I mean, you do it before you get to the Rose Bowl. Like, that's a potential if you get an AD and they know they want to go in another direction. If they know you get an AD, it's it's Pat Chun, and they know the guy from Washington State, and they know Urban Meyer's coming in. Clay Helton never gets to the Rose Bowl. Like, that's a possibility. So I mean, I think at this point, you could argue that, there's been enough that you could fire Clay Helton. And so that would happen before the Rose Bowl kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, but there's a lot of stuff still on the table. Anything can happen. It's crazy. It's USC, which is always crazy.
Yeah, anything can happen. Ryan, I'm putting you on the spot. John says, Ryan, can we get a restaurant analogy? I don't care what the topic is. Restaurant, food. People have been clamoring for your food analogy.
For food analogy? Yeah. I mean,
it's your brand.
I mean, something like just, we have to be talking about something like we need an analogy for. I don't know, like what's the subject?
You got bison with bison burgers.
This is where your creativity
really Can USC create some bison burgers tomorrow?
Yeah, we did it. We had
you kind of did it for me.
Micah put in our intern Micah took over the Peristyle Instagram at the Peristyle. Make sure you check it out. Someone actually brought that up in the chat, and he has like a picture of Clay Helton as the Grinch, like his face on the Grinch is like carving the roast beast, they're carving the bison. So that's kind of a foodie thing on our Peristyle page. It looks strange, I don't know. But someone asked me how long it took me to do that. I didn't do that. That was Micah.
Interesting.
I just asked him to put photos up, and he's like,
you're not addressing the analogy part that we need from you, Ryan.
Right. Well, you don't walk up to a comedian and say a joke. Like it has to be part of the conversation.
Sure.
Like we don't have there's no subject.
I actually do that to my comedian friends.
You're like, tell me a joke.
Comedian friends.
Yeah, one of them helped you move, right? Yeah.
Bernie says, how's Brittany Long grading out?
Unfortunately, we don't have Pro Football Focus grades this season, so we can't bring those up. I think that he's improved from, say, the Washington game. The last couple of games, he did well in the Notre Dame game, going against some of their defensive tackles and stuff. I just think he had a very tough slate early in the season with Tonga at BYU, with Fotu at Utah, and then OC, I think his name is OC from Washington, their nose tackle, just has a different burst off the line, and I don't think he was, Brendan Elon told me later, he was like, that was just different than anything I've seen so far. And he played a lot of odd fronts in that kind of sequence. So they've played some more even fronts the last couple weeks defensively. So he's been doing a little bit better job the last couple weeks.
I love the OG-ness of this just YouTube stream and us having one shot because the comments and questions are really interesting. Greg says, do you see this game as a shootout?
I think USC has to score more than 30 points because everybody scores more than 30 points.
I think USC will score potentially 45, 48 points.
Are we doing predictions? Like, are we going there? You're kind of going there. That's what I'm asking.
Let's just go there. Where are they? Because I have
Predictions.
predictions, and I just want to get them out of the way. I'm going to go like a 45 to like 31, maybe, if that, 27. I don't know. I hate predictions.
Elsie's calling you out because you said USC would lose it to Arizona.
I did say that, but I also listened to Ryan when he said that Arizona's been playing really well.
Well, I didn't predict them to lose. So why would you? I mean,
why would you say they've been playing really well? And then you see Khalil Tate, and he looks nothing like Khalil Tate has ever looked at Arizona. He's just completely neutered. Their offensive line could not communicate for anything. Their defense did okay early.
Maybe you should do your own homework. I don't know.
Oh, some of us were traveling to Notre Dame. Some of us traveled.
So you had a week afterwards.
Yeah. To do all the other content that we put up on the site.
Anyway, I think that USC will win 41-10.
I think
you just copied last week's score.
No, I copied Colorado's score against Washington State.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I did.
I think on the Peristyle pregame show, I said like a 38-31.
You had it closer.
I think it's going to be like a touchdown kind of game. I feel like USC is going to get in the high 30s, but I think Colorado is going to score some points too. I think you're going to see some Laviska Shenault. I think you're going to see Steven Montez play better. So I think there'll be, I don't know if it's a shootout, but, I guess it would be like both teams are in the 30s. So I kind of feel like there's going to be a bunch of points in this one.
LC, I also did predict that it would be 28-24 for the Notre Dame game. The Notre Dame will win. So
you're riding that high so much.
That's the only one I got this year, so I'm sticking with it.
Rob K says, press any number to keep Keely awake. Thank you. That helps me. Tito says, off topic, but what snack from Trader Joe's do you recommend while watching the game?
Oh, I've been really high on the pretzels filled with peanut butter. Those are so yummy. But you can always get the peanut butter cups. Like, those are freaking ridiculous, dude.
No, the maple cookies is where it's at.
All right. JoJo's, some gluten-free JoJo's for my gluten-free people out there. Bill says, Ryan needs to eat a double bison burger. How much weight have you lost?
I've lost over 30 pounds. Yeah.
Crazy.
But not because of eating. I just work out. So I still eat like crap. I mean, I was some people were late for their flight, so I had to wait in the United Lounge. I had like a cookie, a brownie, and a cup of M&Ms. So,
wow.
But I had a little bit of soup and I had some hummus and stuff.
So that evens it out.
But yes, that was and a couple of drinks, which was nice.
Wow. Derek says something that I think is true. He says Dominic Davis is a true Trojan. He has done everything asked of him and has never entered the transfer portal. True definition of fight on. I've talked to Dominic Davis. I've known him since his whole time, and he said it's a blessing and a curse to be a multi-use guy because he's been put everywhere but has never really had that sticking point of this is my shot, this is where I'm going to be, and he told me you have no idea how hard I just want to get on the field. That's why he switched over and back to try and be a slot guy this season, and now he might get his chance. So that's why you hope. That's why talking about players that you root for, whatever, you hope for guys like a Dom to get their shot, to get their playing time because they've been there for so long that you want to see that pay off for them.
The one person hurt the most by Steve Sarkisian's, off-field transgressions or even on-field transgressions, apparently. But because he was going to be used in that unique kind of a Dory role with Steve Sarkisian in that offense, and he chose to come to USC over Washington State. And you look at the numbers that the Washington State running backs have put up since the catches they have, that would be a perfect role for Dominic Davis. So once Steve Sarkisian was gone, the offense kind of reverted back to more of a pro style and not what Sark was kind of selling him on, which he was playing as a freshman. So, to see his career come full circle, that would be really kind of cool if he could make some plays, down the stretch or, in this game for USC as well.
You want a food analogy? Hopefully this works. So you need a subject first. It was like, give me a food analogy. You're like, well, what are we talking about? Dominic Davis. He's sort of like in your kitchen. He could be like a wok, where there's a lot of things.
Walk a lot.
I do like but it's a very versatile tool that you could use in your kitchen, but not everyone knows how to use it. Like you're not really sure. So like you could do this, you could do that, but they're not doing anything with it. The wok's just sitting there. They're using the frying pans and the other stuff, and they're not using what the wok could be. Like, oh, we're going to use the wok over at this station. We're going to move over here, but it never really gets used. Hopefully, it's back to where it belongs. He's going to be stir frying up some big runs down the sideline, and Michael Castillo will be going crazy.
Sure.
There's your analogy.
I've never used a wok.
Neither have I.
See, that's the thing. You don't like Dominic Dix.
Air fryer is where it's at.
Yeah, he's really hot in air fryers. Carry on had a question that I think is serious, but it made me laugh. He said, do you guys ever think about Devin Williams? And he says, I think he was the one that got away with all the backups that did well. How do we know that Clay didn't start a stud?
I feel like there should be some low 90s R&B start playing in the background. And just like a slow-mo. Do you ever think about Devin Williams?
He's good. Yeah, so it's a good point. He's good.
Yes, he's a talented wide receiver. I think he's going to go to Oregon, and he's going to end up being on the field a lot there. Again, I go back to last year. If they could have built his confidence up a little bit, those are the type of things that help young receivers, and they wanted to throw deep balls the only time he was in the game. And then this year, you're just not rotating receivers, so he ends up finding his way to Oregon State and then to Oregon. But I think eventually he's going to be a beast in the Pac-12.
Wasn't there something about the non-recruit rule, the 2-year gap with Devin?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay.
We don't have to get into
referencing.
Okay, it was in the war room, but John. Yeah, don't read the war room. John, who prompted you on your analogy, says, here's your topic. In 2019, who is QB1, Slovis or Daniels? One is an appetizer and the other is an entree.
But that would mean that one of them would play first and then the other one would come in behind them to be the actual meal.
John,
so that's not a great.
Yeah. Don't force it. It has to just flow. Like you don't make it. You don't just like pick it out of. It has to be flowing as part of the conversation.
True. Matt says, shotgun, who wins the modern day Bosco game?
I'm gonna go with Bryce Young. That's gonna win. He's just so accurate. He's such a unique talent, and they won the last one last year. Great rivalry. 51 players in that game have Division I scholarship offers.
Wow.
That seems like a lot.
That is crazy. There's 11 in the top 100 of different classes. So I wrote about that earlier this week for the LA Times. Just a great treasure trove of matchups. Greg Biggins also wrote about it, followed my lead, and wrote about it on 24/7 of all the different matchups. It's going to be a really good game tomorrow.
Here's the thing. You got someone go search
You got
this
to
up.
record that one while you're watching the USC.
Yeah. 51 players in the one high school football game in Southern California with Division I scholarships. How many high school players in the state of Rhode Island have Division I scholarships? I bet you there's more in that game than the whole state of Rhode Island.
That's interesting.
Wow. Someone tweet at us.
Yeah.
Do the research.
Do that.
Research
Just pull it up on
people.
247. You can figure that out.
True. That's a good point. People are wondering why we are so loose on the show. We're very slap happy. Is that the right term?
But it's been a long day. Like we're traveling.
Yeah.
We had to get here, Uber to go get food, come right back.
Our first meal of the day, and then so.
Oh, I did have all those M&Ms.
Oh, true. You had your
at the United
whole
Club.
fake meal over there.
Yeah. Which was good.
But
and I feel like there's a lot of comments about what's legal here in the state of Colorado. Has there been a few comments?
It's also legal in the state of California too.
It is, but for whatever reason, Colorado is more known for it or something.
Sure, Ryan. But we, like Chuck and I said, we don't give troll comments.
I don't know if they're a troll. There's I just see weed going by all the time.
You saw it once. It's only been in one comment, and
Are you sure?
Zoomed in on it.
Yes.
I don't even. That's not even something I do. But people make the jokes about Colorado and stuff. So
Yes.
the Pac-12 footprint has a lot of legal marijuana. States do.
Yes.
You don't care. All right.
Anyway.
Man, it's
The players aren't allowed to smoke, so still part of against NCAA rules. So until you change that, and then really doesn't become a conversation for us, does it?
No.
Good. Any other questions, Chuck? Because we're not going to end on that note.
I think that's pretty much it. That's the last I saw.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well.
Ron did ask earlier, and I should have brought this up since we're talking about it with Oregon. But he said, could Utah make the playoff if they went out?
No. Well, I mean, no. They don't have the out of conference. They don't even have an out of conference loss that's gonna be a big deal. So yeah, I mean, I don't think so.
He also wanted them to make it without winning the Pac-12. So he wants USC to win out and them to win out and somehow make the playoff, even though they don't make the Pac-12 championship.
No, hold on. They're not Georgia or Alabama or something. Like, no, that's not. Yeah. If they wouldn't have lost to USC, they would have a chance if they were undefeated. But they're not going to go as a one-loss team.
Since you brought up Alabama, the stat you said earlier, Keely said earlier, just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, Alabama hasn't under Nick Saban. He's never had a starting quarterback injured, and so he's been the coach for 13 seasons. So this will be the first time this Saturday.
Never had a backup starting.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was saying.
Need.
Yeah, which is crazy. So that'll be interesting to see for sure. Someone said we sound tired. I forgot that it's a short week too. So we're mid-season, short week, travel day. This is what this show is. We're loosey-goosey.
The fact that this has worked, like,
that's also crazy.
Because we're in like some Wi-Fi at a random Airbnb. Didn't get to test it. I tried to test it when I was home. Did what we could. But I'm glad it worked, so it's good. At least it's up on YouTube. We got one thing going.
Yep.
We got a bunch of people watching live, so appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. We'll be back on Sunday to break it all down. Friday game, but Sunday Tunnel Vision keeping the same schedule.
Yeah.
So look out for that Sunday at 7 p.m. We'll get the full breakdown from Clay Helton in his press conference an hour before. So we'll have the full news and scoop to talk about, so make sure you tune in. We'll be on all 3 platforms on Sunday.
Back in the studio.
Yeah, it'll be our whole normal thing, YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook Live, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But thanks for watching us on the road live location, not sure. Same thing. We're in Denver, and we're on location. So thanks for watching this version of Tunnel Vision. We'll see y'all next time.